Welcome to an overview of bullying and social aggression. As you know, bullying is at the forefront in society today, and I'd like to give you some information regarding signs and symptoms associated with those that are being bullied, and of course, some information on those that would like to bully others as well. You'll see at the bottom there's a quote there that says, "Only the best are bullied." That's an anonymous quote that I received. But again, I want to introduce you to an overview about bullying and social aggression. Well, first of all, let's get a good working definition of what is bullying. You'll see that for the most part, a student is bullied or victimized when the person is exposed over a period of time or repeatedly to some type of negative actions on behalf of another student. And of course, we're finding in the research that it's not just necessarily individual one-on-one bullying, but a group of students will also be bullying one person. Bullying is characterized by three criteria. I'd like to point those out to you. First of all, we know that it is some type of aggressive behavior. It's something that one person or a group of individuals that are intentionally trying to inflict harm or damage on another person. We do know that it's carried out over a period of time. There are times that it could be a one-time incident, but we do know that bullying in itself is a repeated negative behavior against an individual over a period of time. And of course, this is characterized by an imbalance of power. We do know that bullying in itself is associated with power. It's associated with control, trying to take advantage of another individual. There are some types of bullying that I'd like to point out to you. For the most part, direct bullying is an open attack on another individual. And again, it's important to understand that bullying is not necessarily a physical thing. It could also be verbal in nature. It could also be emotional in nature. So direct bullying is both physical and verbal in nature. You'll see that the physical attacks are those that are punching another individual, kicking another individual, choking another individual, taking belts off, hitting another individual, or using some type of object to inflict harm or pain upon another person. The verbal attacks are those that what we call harassment, the name callings, the taunting, the malicious teasing, the lies, the rumors, basically slandering another individual's character. And we do know that indirect bullying is what we call, it's more subtle, and it's very difficult at times to detect. That indirect bullying can be associated with what we call intentional exclusion, not allowing a person to be a part of a team, not allowing a person to be a part of a group, making obscene gestures towards the individual, and of course manipulating friendships, telling others that you don't want to be associated with Bob, or you don't want to be associated with Scott. That's the form of social aggressions. We do know that for the most part, with this manipulation and making of lies and so forth, females are more likely to be associated with that social isolation, whereas guys are more likely, or boys are more likely to be associated with the physical part of attacks. There are some risk factors for bullying peers, why individuals would bully other persons. We do know that the family, the peers, the school factors, these all play a role in how a person begins to bully another individual. We know that as a general rule, boys are much more likely to engage in bullying behavior than girls. Girls who bully are less likely to be physical in their nature. Boys, for the most part, would be more physically abusive. We talked about the social isolation that the girls normally adhere to, and the boys are very physical in their nature. And although most bullying occurs between students in the same grade, we are finding that for the most part, that older students sometimes bully even the younger students. A person that's in the 6th grade bullying someone in the 3rd or 4th grade, or someone in the 10th or 11th bullying someone perhaps in the eighth or ninth grade. Again, it goes back to that power structure that the person wants to control another individual. Some of the individual risk factors of how bullying occurs, individuals who are having that dominant personality, an individual who lacks empathy and or care or concern for another person, individuals that are very impulsive, hot-headed, mean-spirited individuals. Another individual risk factor is the person has a difficult time conforming to rules, as well as the individual having a positive attitude towards aggression, maladaptive aggressive behavior, violence, watching violent videos and television programs. They adhere to a tremendous amount of violence. And then, of course, the physical aggressive behavior, the physical aggressive nature about the individual. And then, of course, another individual risk factor as to why a person would like to bully someone else. Generally, the person has a decreased interest in school, and that is associated with several things. Poor grades, poor academic performance, truancy issues, failure to adhere to rules in schools, not wanting to be there as well. Some of the family risk factors that an individual may find that there is a lack of parental warmth, nurturing, caring, involvement in the well-being of the kid that's in school. The child at home is not feeling that nurture coming from their parents, not any concern from the parents. So therefore, again, they take on this physical nature because sometimes they're perceived as being very cold and very indifferent at school. We do know also that a kid at home that's receiving excessively harsh discipline, the parent or parents are yelling at the child, screaming at the child, physically abusing that child, using certain objects to beat the child. So as a result of that, the physical punishment that this child receives at home, all of this aggression is held on the inside, and he or she would like to project that on someone else. And of course, another family risk factor is a lack of parental supervision. When the child comes home, no one is there. The child is caring for him or herself. The child is taking care of all of his physical needs, feeding himself, cleaning himself, providing for his own physical and financial well-being. When the child goes to bed at night, there's no one there to tuck the child in. So all of these lack of family concern and family supervision, the child feels isolated, the child feels lonely. So when there's no supervision of the child just basically is growing up without any type of parent. Some of the peer risk factors associated with bullying, for the most part, also is that the person's friends, their peers that they are associated with, these individuals also have a hostile attitude towards violence, and so therefore they take all of that aggression, they take all of that energy, and they begin to have positive attitudes towards the violence. And then, of course, when a person is hanging around another individual that's constantly modeling bullying for him or her, that person also will take all of those traits, all those characteristics that he or she is learning from that person. Some of the school risk factors to be aware of is when there's a lack of supervision during breaks, in particular during lunchtime, when the kids are enjoying themselves on the playground, when there's no supervision in the hallways, the locker rooms, in particular in the bathroom. We do know that a tremendous amount of bullying will occur in the bathrooms. When there's unsupervised interaction between different grade levels during the breaks, when both the sixth graders and the fourth graders and the third graders are all on the playground together, and when there's no supervision, the older students sometimes would like to take advantage of the younger students. And of course, the indifferent or accepting attitude that the teacher may have against bullying. And then, of course, the indifferent or accepting student attitudes towards bullying, that for the most part, they deserve it. And I have the right to take advantage of someone that's younger than me. They should be my servants. They should be my slaves. So they take all these attitudes of indifference towards those that are younger than them or in a lower grade. And then, of course, the inconsistent enforcement of the rules. The rules apply to one particular individual, but the rules don't apply to someone else. These are factors that allows an individual in the school system to want to begin to bully others. And of course, some risk factors for being bullied by peers. You'll see that the individual, the family, the school factors can also play a role in a youth who's been at risk for bullying. In particular, again, both boys and girls are more likely to be victimized by boys. Again, boys are more likely to victimize boys and girls, but generally speaking, girls normally only victimize other girls. Younger and weaker students are more likely to be bullied because they see them as having low self-esteem, low self-value, low self-worth. Some individual risk factors for being bullied, for the most part, is when a person is perceived to have a insecure personality. It goes back again to about the self-worth, the self-value, the low self-esteem. When they're perceived to being very sensitive-minded individuals, they become praise to those that would like to bully them. And of course, difficult asserting themselves among their peers when they acquiesce to the rights and what other individuals are wanting them to do. They become a prime victim to be bullied. And of course, if they are perceived as being physically weak, particularly in boys, they would normally like to bully boys that don't show that aggressive behavior, don't show that macho about themselves. And as a general rule, girls, for the most part, would like to go after other girls that are very shy and somewhat reserved, or quote unquote, as the girls would say, that they don't fit in with us. Some family risk factors can include that if a parent is somewhat overprotective of the child, that helicopter parent, always watching that child, doing everything for that child, not allowing the child to do things for him or herself. Some peer risk factors can include when a person does not necessarily have any close friends at school, no associates, no one to do homework with, no one to call on the phone, no one to talk with. For the most part, they're walking around campus not having anyone associated with them. Some of the school risk factors can include the following: the presence of aggressive students in the same grade, the student who wants to take complete control of the classroom, and even when the teacher does not challenge that individual. Again, the lack of supervision during breaks. It's critically important that there will be some type of supervision when the children are on their breaks in the classroom, walking down the hall, or also in the bathroom. And of course, the indifference of accepting teachers' attitude towards bullying. The concept of when teachers believe that boys will be boys and girls will be boys and it's okay, and I went through it when I was in school. We have to take that type of attitudes away from our teachers. And of course, the indifference or accepting student attitudes towards bullying. The belief that, well, as long as they're not bothering me, they can bother someone else. No, bullying must be reported to a teacher. It must be reported to a supervisor. It must be reported to a principal when the action is actually going on in the school system. And of course, it's important to understand that when there is a lack of consistency with the enforcement of rules, whether it's coming from a class favorite who's bullying others, the rules must apply to him. You must take some type of action against that individual. Or if the individual is perceived to be perhaps the fastest student in the classroom, or the individual might be perceived as being the most attractive or the most wealthy, it doesn't matter. You must enforce the rules against all the individuals there in the school system. So for the most part, thank you for viewing this overview of bullying and social aggression. And for the most part, thank you for your patronage, because you're putting a few coins in my pockets, and I'll be able to take that beautiful daughter of mine and get her through college. Have a wonderful day.